Section 23 of Villette by Charlotte Bronte. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Leanne Fortune, Section 23. I had got her out into the garden ere this. I now set her down on a seat, and told her she should not stir till she had avowed which she meant in the end to accept, the man or the monkey. "Him you call the man," said she, "is bourgeois, sandy-haired, and answers to the name of John. Cela suffit. Je n'en veux pas. Colonel de Hamal is a gentleman of excellent connections, perfect manners, sweet appearance, with pale interesting face, and hair and eyes like an Italian. Then, too, he is the most delightful company possible. A man quite in my way, not sensible and serious like the other, but one with whom I can talk on equal terms, who does not plague and bore and harass me with depths and heights and passions and talents for which I have no taste. There now, don't hold me so fast." I slackened my grasp, and she darted off. I did not care to pursue her. Somehow I could not avoid returning once more in the direction of the corridor to get another glimpse of Dr. John, but I met him on the garden steps, standing where the light from a window fell broad. His well-proportioned figure was not to be mistaken, for I doubt whether there was another in that assemblage his equal. He carried his hat in his hand, his uncovered head, his face and fine brow were most handsome and manly. His features were not delicate, not slight like those of a woman, nor were they cold, frivolous, and feeble. Though well cut, they were not so chiselled, so frittered away as to lose in expression or significance what they gained in unmeaning symmetry. Much feeling spoke in them at times, and more sat silent in his eye. Such at least were my thoughts of him. To me he seemed all this. An inexpressible sense of wonder occupied me as I looked at this man, and reflected that he could not be slighted. It was not my intention to approach or address him in the garden, our terms of acquaintance not warranting such a step. I had only meant to view him in the crowd, myself unseen. Coming upon him thus alone, I withdrew, but he was looking out for me, or rather for her who had been with me. Therefore he descended the steps, and followed me down the alley. "You know Miss Fanshawe? I have often wished to ask whether you knew her," said he. "Yes, I know her." "Intimately?" "Quite as intimately as I wish." "What have you done with her now?" "Am I her keeper?" I felt inclined to ask, but I simply answered, "I have shaken her well, and would have shaken her better, but she escaped out of my hands and ran away." "Would you favour me," he asked, "by watching over her this one evening, and observing that she does nothing imprudent, does not, for instance, run out into the night air immediately after dancing? I may, perhaps, look after her a little, since you wish it, but she likes her own way too well to submit readily to control." "She is so young, so thoroughly artless," said he. "To me she is an enigma," I responded. "Is she?" he asked, much interested. "How?" "It would be difficult to say how, difficult at least to tell you how." "And why me? I wonder she is not better pleased that you are so much her friend." "But she has not the slightest idea how much I am her friend. That is precisely the point I cannot teach her. May I inquire, did she ever speak of me to you? Under the name of Isidore she has talked about you often, but I must add that it is only within the last 10 minutes I have discovered that you and Isidore are identical. It is only, Dr. John, within that brief space of time I have learned that Ginevra Fanshawe is the person, under this roof, in whom you have long been interested, that she is the magnet which attracts you to the Rue Fossette, that for her sake you venture into this garden and seek out caskets dropped by rivals. You know all? I know so much. For more than a year I have been accustomed to meet her in society. Mrs. Cholmondeley, her friend, is an acquaintance of mine. Thus I see her every Sunday. But you observed that under the name of Isidore she often spoke of me. May I, without inviting you to a breach of confidence, inquire what was the tone, what the feeling of her remarks? I feel somewhat anxious to know, being a little tormented with uncertainty as to how I stand with her. Oh, she varies. She shifts and changes like the wind. Still, you can gather some general idea? I can, thought I, but it would not do to communicate that general idea to you. Besides, if I said she did not love you, I know you would not believe me. You are silent, he pursued. I suppose you have no good news to impart. No matter. If she feels for me positive coldness and aversion, it is a sign I do not deserve her. Do you doubt yourself? Do you consider yourself the inferior of Colonel de Hamel? I love Miss Fanshawe far more than de Hamel loves any human being, and would care for and guard her better than he. Respecting de Hamel, I fear she is under an illusion. The man's character is known to me, all his antecedents, all his scrapes. He is not worthy of your beautiful young friend. My beautiful young friend ought to know that, and to know or feel who is worthy of her, said I. If her beauty or her brains will not serve her so far, she merits the sharp lesson of experience. Are you not a little severe? I am excessively severe, more severe than I choose to show you. You should hear the strictures with which I favor my beautiful young friend, only that you would be unutterably shocked at my want of tender considerateness for her delicate nature. She is so lovely one cannot but be loving towards her. You, every woman older than herself, must feel for such a simple, innocent, girlish fairy a sort of motherly or elder sisterly fondness. Graceful angel, does not your heart yearn towards her when she pours into your ear her pure childlike confidences? How you are privileged! And he sighed. I cut short these confidences somewhat abruptly, now and then, said I. But excuse me, Dr. John, may I change the theme for one instant? What a godlike person is that de Hamel! What a nose on his face! Perfect! Model one in putty or clay. You could not make a better or straighter or neater. And then, such classic lips and chin, and his bearing, sublime. De Hamel is an unutterable puppy, besides being a very white-livered hero. You, Dr. John, and every man of a less refined mould than he, must feel for him a sort of admiring affection, such as Mars and the coarser deities may be supposed to have borne the young, graceful Apollo. An unprincipled, gambling little jackanapes, said Dr. John curtly, whom, with one hand, I could lift up by the waistband any day, and lay low in the kennel if I liked. The sweet seraph, said I. What a cruel idea! Are you not a little severe, Dr. John? And now I paused. For the second time that night I was going beyond myself, venturing out of what I looked on as my natural habits, speaking in an unpremeditated, impulsive strain, which startled me strangely when I halted to reflect. On rising that morning, had I anticipated that before night I should have acted the part of a gay lover in a vaudeville, and an hour after frankly discussed with Dr. John the question of his hapless suit, and rallied him on his illusions. I had no more presaged such feats than I had looked forward to an ascent in a balloon, or a voyage to Cape Horn. The doctor and I, having paced down the walk, were now returning. The reflex from the window again lit his face. He smiled, but his eye was melancholy. How I wished that he could feel heart's ease! How I grieved that he brooded over pain, and pain from such a cause! He with his great advantages, he to love in vain. I did not then know that the pensiveness of reverse is the best phase for some minds, nor did I reflect that some herbs, though scentless when entire, yield fragrance when they are bruised. Do not be sorrowful, do not grieve, I broke out. If there is in Ginevra one spark of worthiness of your affection, she must feel devotion in return. Be cheerful, be hopeful, Dr. John. Who should hope, if not you? In return for this speech I got what, it must be supposed, I deserved, a look of surprise. I thought also of some disapprobation. We parted, and I went into the house very chill. The clock struck, and the bells tolled midnight. People were leaving fast, the fete was over, the lamps were fading. In another hour all the dwelling-house and all the pensionnat were dark and hushed. I too was in bed, but not asleep. To me it was not easy to sleep after a day of such excitement. End of section 23. Recording by Leanne Fortune.